Hey everybody, how's it going? It's the Daily Shooter, and today we're going to be taking a look at an optic that is stirring up a lot of controversy, not because of how it works, but because of how it looks. So today we're going to be taking a look at the brand new AimPoint ACRO. Okay, so let's go ahead and kick this review off by first addressing the elephant in the room, and that's the looks of the new AimPoint ACRO. I've had this thing for months now, and I've been posting about it on Instagram, Patreon, Facebook, and it seems like the first comments that roll in all have to do with the looks. And to be honest with you, it does kind of look like everybody says. It looks like a mailbox. It does kind of look big. It looks bulky. There are a lot of people that like it, and there are a lot of people that don't like it. I'd say it's a pretty good 50-50 split on what people think about this optic. But if you really stop and think about it, do looks really matter? Do you want an optic that is going to outperform the competition, or do you want an optic that looks cool? So if Sightmark made an optic that looked really nice, but Trijicon or AimPoint made an optic that was ugly, would you go with the Sightmark just because of the fact that it looks cool, or would you go with something that's a little bit more durable and reliable? I think most people out there would probably go for the more durable and reliable optic, right? Well, that's kind of what you're getting here. Looks are secondary to the overall function of this optic. This thing is a beast. It's an actual beast. I mean, it is bomb-proof, it is solid, it is waterproof. You're not going to have some of the problems that could arise. I'm not saying that they will arise with some of the open-aired optics like Trigicon's, loophole delta points, and so forth. But with this optic right here, it's just not even a concern. It's nothing that you need to worry about. This is a completely enclosed red dot, and there's a reason they made it look the way that it does. So one of the reasons they made it look the way that it does is obviously you need a specific sight picture, right? They want to give you a good field of view. You want to be able to see through the target, shoot with both eyes open. You want to be able to see what's downrange, and so they wanted to make it tall enough where you could be able to do that and have a little bit of play, since this is a zero parallax optic. So they had to make it tall enough, and they also went ahead and made it just about the same width of a pistol, so you end up with these flat edges. But you also want to make it nice and strong, so they gave it a dome shape and so forth, and that's what you end up with. So again, to me, looks are secondary to the overall performance of the ACRO. Okay, so now that we've talked about the looks, let's go ahead and talk about some of the tech specs, details, and features of the AimPoint ACRO. Now, from what I understand, you guys are looking at the smallest enclosed red dot on the market today. And even though it looks kind of big on the top of this pistol right here, it's actually fairly small and lightweight. The dimensions are basically 1.8 inches long, 1.2 inches high, and 1.2 inches wide, and it comes in at 2.1 ounces. Now, one thing to remember is that 2.1 ounces is without the mount. You're going to have to get a specific mount for whatever pistol you decide that you're going to mount it on. So if you want to mount it on a Glock MOS or a Performance Center slide for the M&P 9 like this, you're going to have to get the corresponding mount for that. The mounts do range in price, I believe anywhere from about $28 and up. They do actually sell a 1/3 lower co-witness mount as well. So if you want to run this as your primary optic on a rifle, maybe you have one of those 3.5 pound builds and you don't want to add a really heavy optic to it, they do make a 1/3 lower co-witness mount that will attach to your Picatinny, and you can run this as a primary optic. Now, since this is an AimPoint, you know that it's going to have the best coatings. It's got really nice coatings on it, anti-reflective coatings and so forth, Type 3 hard anodized coated. As far as the material, it says that it's a high-grade aluminum. I don't know what type of aluminum, but it says it's a high-grade aluminum, and if it's an AimPoint, chances are it's going to be pretty good stuff. So it's a high-grade aluminum. Now, this thing is waterproof because of its enclosed design. Not only is it waterproof, but it is submersible, and it's submersible down to 25 meters, so this thing can handle quite a bit of pressure. From what I understand, they tested it with 20,000 rounds of ammunition, and just to make sure that it would hold zero arrow and handle the recoil and all that type of stuff. So they tested it with 20,000 rounds of ammunition. Now, when you're talking about the windage and elevation, you're looking at half MOA clicks. So we have our windage and elevation located on the top and side. We do have 4 night vision settings on this. So if you're somebody who's going to be running night vision, maybe you are military, law enforcement, whatever the case is, and that's kind of an important feature to you, this does have night vision settings. The battery on this one is a little bit different. The battery on this is located right on the side right here, so you don't have to remove the optic to access the battery. You simply remove this compartment right here, and it gives you access to the CR1225, excuse me. It's not really a battery I'm all that familiar with, especially with optics of this type, but it's kind of like a standard battery, but just a little bit smaller, almost like a hearing aid style battery. So it's a very small battery, again, located in the side, and that'll give you 15,000 hours of operating time. So from what I've read, that is 1 year on level 6. So there's 10 different brightness settings, and if you were to put it on 6, which is still bright enough to be able to see in medium daylight and in the dark, obviously, then at level 6 you can leave this thing on the entire time for a year. Now, the adjustments are made by clicking either the up arrow or the down arrow, which is located on the side of the optic right here. It's very intuitive. Obviously, you have a big up arrow and a big down arrow. They didn't put them left and right, so you got to figure out which one is up and down. Because they're on top and bottom, it's very easy to remember whether or not you're going to be turning it up or turning it down. So you don't actually have to look at the optic in order to adjust the brightness setting. And when it gets bright, it gets really bright. When I was shooting this thing out in the desert, both in California and Nevada, 2 different types of sand, 2 different types of rocks, a lot of red in the rocks, I was able to see the red dot absolutely no problem. Now, one thing to keep in mind is with the mount, I have this one mounted to an M&P 9 right now. With the mount and the optic, the way that it sets it up, I do have a very little bit of co-witness with these sights that are on here right now. So these are suppressor height sights. They're actually fairly tall even for suppressor height sights. When I put this thing in front of me, I just get really the tip of each one of the rear sights, and then I can see the top of the blade. So if I had to, I could go ahead and co-witness just a little bit, but really not all that much. It's not like a Trijicon that sits really low and kind of deep into the slide. This is more or less like if you were going to set it up for like a Glock MOS, and that's going to sit a little bit higher. It does kind of take away some of the advantage that you get with the night sights, or excuse me, with the suppressor height sights as your backup. Now, this one right here has a 3.5 MOA dot in it. It's really easy to pick up. I love that dot size. Anything between 3 MOA and 6 MOA is kind of where I stay when it comes to a handgun, because when you put this thing out in front of you, it's really easy to pick up, especially if you kind of have that natural push out in front of you. A lot of people will say it's kind of hard to find the dot, but it's really no different than finding that front sight post, which has a dot on it. You just get this general alignment when you put that thing in front of you, especially with both eyes open at 3.5 MOA. You can keep your eyes on it pretty well and pretty easy, and it lends to a lot more accurate shooting. I wouldn't say that it's really faster, but I would say that you can definitely be more accurate, because wherever that dot is where it's going to go, where your shot's going to go, and so it allows you to be a little bit more accurate with your shot placement. Now, when it comes to my own personal experience, I really like this optic. I like it a lot more than I thought I would. Just given its overall size and shape, I thought it was going to affect the recoil impulse. I thought it was going to make it a little bit harder to hang on to because you have more mass coming back. But again, you're only adding just over 2 ounces, so it's not really that much. Anybody going from a Trijicon RMR or something similar to the AimPoint ACRO, I don't even think you're going to notice. I think that it would be negligible at best. So when I was shooting with it, I found it to be really nice and clear. The glass is very nice. It's actually some of the clearest glass that I've ever seen. If you are somebody who's coming over from a Trijicon product, you know that they have kind of that bluish green hue to the lens. This really doesn't have it at all. If I point it at my white light right there, it's pretty much just a white light. If anything, the light becomes a little bit more brown, but it's almost absolutely perfect. It's definitely some of the clearest glass that I've ever seen on an optic like this. Again, they can do that because of the enclosed design. When you have a design that's open air, you're going to have to add some type of reflective surface so that that red dot becomes brighter and brighter, and your eyes can perceive it a little bit better. But because this is enclosed, they don't need to do that as much, leading to a much clearer optic. Now, because of its size, I thought, okay, it's going to have a small viewing window. It does kind of feel like maybe there is a lot of material around the edge. And when I first put this out in front of my face, you can kind of see the bulkiness of the protective material that holds in the glass and so forth, just to verify this is safe. Nothing in the chamber, no magazine. Nothing in the chamber, no magazine. I'm going to go ahead and point it in this direction right here so you guys can see. But you have this protective hood right here that holds on the glass, and you have kind of another layer that's on top of it right there, which kind of leads to a little bit extra bulky material. And when you put it up to your face like this, you can kind of see it. But, I mean, that's not how we all shoot, right? So if you're going to be bringing this out in front of you, the further that it gets away, the less that it seems to affect me at all. I mean, to this point, I don't even notice it at all. The view is really nice and good. You actually have a pretty good sight picture with this. It's very easy to pick up. It's easy to shoot with both eyes open. It's easy to acquire your target, and it's definitely easy to keep the dot where you want it. So I really like it a lot. Like I said, a lot more than I thought I would. All things given, the looks, which is, you know, minor, and the performance, I mean, this thing is a beast. I mean, it really is. This is a solid optic. If you guys are looking for something and you want to maybe erase the potential of having that emitter blocked, or something get inside the glass on an RMR or some other type of optic where it's hard to get your thumb in there and completely clean it off, this might be something you want to go to, especially if you're in competition and you want something that's really fast to clean off, just in case when you pull it out of the holster, you know, there's something on the glass. Just hit it with your thumb and you're good to go. And it's really nice. So, I mean, there's not really much more that I can say about it. You know, we've talked about its look, we've talked about the stats. It's just a beast of an optic. It's an AimPoint. It's going to run well. So if you guys are interested in this, there's two ways that you can go ahead and check this out. I'll put a link to my website down below. You guys can head over there. I'll put this video there with all the links, discount codes, and everything that you want. And from that website, you'll also find a lot of other stuff that you might be interested in as well. Again, this was sent to the channel by Optics Planet. You can use the discount code TDS5 if you guys are interested. The AimPoint ACRO. Pretty cool little red dot.